Well, the jury is in. I think it's the final verdict. No, not that one exactly. But I think it's the final verdict. Let me try and explain. I believe it was a week ago this morning that I received and accepted an early death sentence. That is, I put two and two together, or rather $30,000 and $30,000 together for one or two rounds of chemo and surgery to give me another 3, 5, 10 years of earthly existence, physical existence. I believe it was a week ago this morning that I put two and two together, and instantly that I did that, no, $30,000 would keep 60,000 of my children alive for an additional day. That's what it costs, 50 cents a day. $60,000, more likely what the regimen would have costed. 120,000 children of my children alive for an additional day. What? Well, it's been a week. And I can't think of a decision that I've made that I've been more comfortable with, not in my entire life. I don't suppose either of us would be inclined to eat a raw worm. It's intrinsically revolting, right? Nothing we have to think about it, nothing we have to sneer at. It's just viscerally, intrinsically revolting. We're not inclined to eat at a waste dump. It's intrinsically revolting. Overprivilege has been intrinsically revolting throughout my life, but oh my goodness, was I good at burying that revulsion and lusting on the high life. But the intrinsic revulsion was ever there. Mommy, Daddy, why do we have a woman that cleans our house once a week? Her face is black or brown, skin is brown, and I'm supposed to call her by her first name while you pride yourselves on me addressing all the white adults as Mr. or Mrs. My parents, by the way, were, particularly my dad, was the most saintly guy I've ever met. In fact, I was to do it, she told me, the lady cleaning our house, was so that I didn't embarrass her or threaten her position. I still refused once I was a bit older. I understand what moralizing is. This wasn't moralizing. It isn't moralizing when we decide not to pick up a worm, a wiggling worm, and eat it. It's just visceral, inbuilt revulsion. I had that inbuilt revulsion since the earliest I can remember for overprivilege, but oh my God, it was buried. Through my early or mid-teens, and then fairly well buried for decades afterwards. But it was just visceral. Well, it's not buried anymore. It hasn't been buried for 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years, and by uncovering it, it's grown. But the notion of taking $15,000, $30,000, $45,000, $60,000 worth of overprivilege in the form of health care that would keep 60,000 of my children alive for an additional day. $4 billion a day is the maximum daily income for 4 billion of our 7 billion brothers and sisters on this planet, $4 a day. So $30,000 would be 20 years worth of income for any one of those 4 billion. The notion of me consuming that is viscerally revolting to me. A person who has been so dear to me this last year, as in her dearness has been directed at me. She's always been dear to me in my heart for the 40 years I've known her. But a dear, dear person took me off the streets for a couple of weeks, not too many months ago when it was needed. And I found myself by the last day confining myself to a small corner of her large abode. A nice middle-class abode. The overprivilege around me was just so viscerally nauseating. See, I live with those 4 billion brothers and sisters. I live with them in my mind. I mean, I live with them in my mind. I keep them in my mind. I keep them watching me. It's one of the tools I use to keep my passion, to keep my joy, to keep my purpose, my meaning, my love. Look at my book, Unleashing Your Unviolent Warrior, a personal trainer. Use it. Look at the tabs at the top of my site. And when you live all the time with those eyes on you because you want them there, because you want your eyes on them, your neediest children. If you try and imagine that, you can begin to see how I feel. Well, so I mean, pretty close to the final verdict is being told that you have 9 months to live unless you take $30,000, $60,000 worth of treatment for yourself. And without batting an eyelash, when you see the full transaction, you say, no, I think that's accepting the final verdict, embracing the final verdict. I'd rather die without batting an eye. I'd rather die than embrace that level of overprivilege. It's not moralizing, friends. It's visceral. I'd rather die than embracing. I would die. I would be dead if I embraced that overprivilege. That was the death that people like Jesus physically died to save us from. I simply get it. I've gotten it for the last 12 years. It got me when I was born. Didn't it get you when you were born? It got me when I was born. But our culture mutilates it out of us. I've reconstructed myself, that's all. Beyond that, gross out alert. I had to pee about 8 times last night. That's not a real good sign. Probably. that pattern was true for me up until they removed the last tumors, and it turns out that our internal organs are pretty tightly packed, and when tumors start to grow, they put pressure on other parts internally. As soon as the first two tumors were removed back in December, I was back to peeing once or twice a night. Well, I was peed 8 times last night. That may well be a sign that those 2 tumors they found in my liver are growing pretty fast. I'm guessing that that I'll be doing the dust to dust thing by about September, and that I'll be debilitated in whatever ways, pain or physical dysfunction, within just a couple, 3 more months now, if that long. I don't count on tomorrow. Jesus died not for all the church mumbo-jumbo. He died to show us how to find life, how to use our nervous system, living out of our spirit of loving, the Christ spirit, the divine spirit, to the exclusion of the spirit of lusting, the fleshly spirit, the spirit of head and flesh in charge. It wasn't moralizing, it was how it feels. For the passion, the peace of heart, the joy, the loving of it. Friends, this is how I've been for 12 years. It's heaven. Every second is heaven. And hell, because you have the pain of the world in your heart. It's the fuel, like the fuel in a nuclear reactor. But it's heaven. It's not about some life after this. And my life is testimony to that psychological path, having the heart in charge, always, never letting the fleshly spirit in charge. It's not a matter of hating the fleshly spirit. Do you have to hate McDonald's to go to an expensive restaurant for your favorite meal? Sorry for the analogy, overprivileged, but it's the right analogy. No, you don't have to hate McDonald's. You just have to realize, no, I'm not going to fill up on McDonald's. I want my appetite for something better. That's all it is. And I stopped being cancer when that appetite for loving our global neediest, I caused it to take over. A coup, if you will. Fully by 12, 13 years ago. And I've been laughing all the way to an extraordinary overprivilege of the Spirit ever since. This is what people like Jesus died to leave us to. This is why Gandhi considered his life a failure, because he led people to overthrow India, but he thought he had led them to a different way of being, and in his final years he saw he hadn't. Tragically, he did not, in his final years, embrace the truth that he earlier said, full effort is full success. I've impacted no one, I've saved no one, I've helped no one. But by God, I've given every breath to do so. And what he said is full effort is full success. I've left nothing on the field, friends. I've given you my full effort. I've given our children our full effort. Does it horrify me? Does it make me cry that I've impacted none of you, that I've done nothing to save them? It does. But it doesn't remove the complete joy, the complete peace of heart, the complete passion and sense of loving that possesses me every waking second. It doesn't take that away. You've got the same nervous system. You've got the same spirit. And whereas by embracing that spirit, you can't control what anyone else does, you can influence what they do. You can stop leading them to worship this disgusting fleshly spirit that we worship in this society, all of us. And you can influence them to follow your lead. You can be a witness. You can be an example. Not to be an example, but you will be. Do it for your own selfishness, for your own desire for complete joy, passion, loving, peace of heart. But you will thereby be far and away, by orders of magnitude, the greatest hope, the only hope you can be for those you love to find the same incredible, total, ultimate wealth of spirit, and to be a path for others to the same. Oh my gosh, it's worth dying for.